All right, folks, welcome in. I am Jake Ellenbogen. This is a Rams weekly live stream that we do here on Bleacher Report. You can follow me right on your app, JK Bogan. You can also follow me on all social media at JK Bogan, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Kick. And also, you can check out my YouTube channel, Jake Ellenbogen, where I cover the Rams. And I also have another show as well called The Lounge, where I bring on all sorts of guests. And I will be interviewing a Ram that I will not say the name, but I'll be interviewing a Ram tomorrow. So that will be on that channel. So you can check that out. So, again, all those things, welcome in. We got some stuff to talk about. Of course, the Rams, this is free agency, things going on, all of that. But, let's talk about it, right? Like Cooper Kupp today, that's a huge, huge deal. This is the end of an era, understandably so. We all knew that, he was going to be likely released or traded, but it's different now that it's actually happened. And that's what I would say about that. I think when you look at just what he means to this organization and how he's kind of this all-time player. I mean, he might not have the stats, because of the lack of longevity, because the injuries, and of course now, he was cut. But I mean, this is a guy that is loved. He's beloved in the Rams land. So that was a bit of a gut punch there for fans today. And it makes sense. I get it. I understand people are going to say it's a business, and again, understand that entirely. It just does leave kind of a bad taste in your mouth when this organization that I respect a ton, you can argue, not argue, it's official. They have now released within 4 years of each other, 4 years after winning the Super Bowl, they've released both of their Super Bowl MVPs. They've only had two Super Bowl MVPs in their history, Kurt Warner and Cooper Kupp, and they've released them both within 4 years after winning the Super Bowl. So that is a little bit of a tough pill to swallow there. Cooper is going to have a lot of interest. They're already talking about he's going to go, he's going to have a lot of interest. He's got a pick of the litter, if you will. And the Rams, they have their wide receivers. They have Davante Adams, who really fits this offense, in my opinion. I think he's going to transcend this offense and get them back to where they were in 2021. Of course, they have Tutu Atwell, who they re-signed, $10 million, 1-year deal. Puka Nacua, who is a top 10, top 5 receiver, arguably. And then you have Jordan Whittington, a really, impressive, really good blocker, by the way, but really impressive, high upside, kind of slept on option there as the 4 receiver. Do they add another receiver via the draft? That remains to be seen. I believe they do because Davante Adams is only on a 2-year deal, and of course, Atwell's on a 1-year deal. But for the time being, those are the 4 guys that I would expect to be the starters. Looking at this team right now, they're built to win now. I don't like to say all in because I don't think they're going all in. Okay, all in would be putting all your chips on the table. And to me, I just don't feel like they've done that. I don't feel like they haven't traded away their first-round pick. They traded away their second-round pick to move up last year to draft somebody, not trade away for an NFL player. Draft somebody. So, they have 2 third-rounders, but I don't really think that they're all in. Now, if they were to give up a first-round pick or, trade a bunch of picks or whatever in the next week or so, okay, maybe I changed my mind on that. But I think you can still be a Super Bowl favorite or one of them if you want to win now. You don't just have to be all in. And that's how I feel. So, looking at this right now, this Rams roster, I think it looks pretty darn good. Really want to see them bring back Ahkello Witherspoon. They need him at corner, and the corner market is drying up. But also the linebacker market's drying up because a lot of people were expecting the Rams to, be players in the linebacker market, kind of deviate away from what they normally do. They did, of course, pay, Bobby Wagner in 2022, and that worked out well, and they still moved on from him. But, you look at the Rams right now, and they only have 3 linebackers currently on the roster. only one of which started a game for them last year on the defensive side of the ball. Omar Speights, and then you had Tony Fields II, who you picked up and added to your practice squad, and Elias Neal, who is a UDFA that made the 53-man roster, but he's more so a special teamer. So what does that look like? Where could they go? What's the direction they go in? Because Christian Roseboom just signed with the Carolina Panthers, and Jake Hummel, who has been a really intriguing guy that they got via the college free agency out of Iowa State, he just moved on to the Ravens. So it is intriguing here. Where do they go? What's the direction here? We don't really know, right? But one thing we do know is who is available currently, and there's some options. I mean, you got Eric Kendricks, a veteran there. He had a really good year last year in Dallas. If you want to go that route, he's an option there. EJ Speed, I think, is a real good fit coming from the Indianapolis Colts, a well-rounded player, 29 years of age. Nate Landman, if you're looking for just a pure run defender, a thumper, that is Nate Landman coming over from the Falcons. They did not decide to, pick up his deal. They didn't tender him. He was a restricted free agent. Now he is a, unrestricted free agent, so he's available. And then most recently, and these are just some notables, I'm sure I'm missing some players, but CJ Mosley is the most recent one. And he was just cut by the Jets after they just paid Jamie Sherwood. Mosley had a neck injury last year. So this is a guy that has had a lot of success in this league. It started off a little bumpy after signing with the Jets. It got a lot better over the course of time. And in 2023, this is a guy that was the 5th rated linebacker according to PFF. And you look at it in 2024, he deals with the disc, issue, in his neck. So that's not great, obviously. And he had some toe issues. So, the question is, he's going to be 33 this summer. Is it worth taking a gamble on a guy dealing with injuries? I don't think it's as simple as a yes or no, because if you can get him now on a reduced cost because of these injuries, I think it could really benefit you. I think it could go a long way. And that's something I think I'm looking at for the Rams is, do they decide to kick it with this, bargain bin hunt and go after a guy like CJ Mosley, who is a big name, who's a leader, who's a veteran presence? What do they do there, right? Like, are they going to bring him in and have him be the guy? Is that going to be Speights? Here's my thing. If you take anything away from the Rams free agency so far, just take away this right now, because this is all we know. They are very high on Omar Speights. It's the whole show me, don't tell me, actions speak louder than words. And Omar Speights is the only one on this roster that has any starting experience. He's going into year 2 after a really, really good second half when he finally got the opportunity to play. He was the best linebacker, one of the best players, according to PFF, in preseason. So it wasn't just preseason. Evidently, he carried that on into the NFL season. And I thought you saw some great play out of Christian Roseboom down the stretch as soon as he started playing with Speights. It's nothing against Troy Reeder, but I think Speights offers more. So they feel good about him. And, of course, Ernest Jones is a guy that was here. And at one point, they were going to at least try for an extension. It didn't work out. And then he ended up getting traded for nothing. Interesting little dynamic there. But now they have Speights. And, I think it'll be interesting here. Do they go via the draft? I mean, I think they're definitely going to get a linebacker in the draft. I think the question is, where in the draft are they going to get said linebacker? Because the Rams haven't drafted a linebacker high since Alec Ogletree in 2012. So they don't typically draft, these inside linebackers on day 1. The end of day 2, they got Ernest Jones. So that was the last time they drafted a linebacker that high. In the past, they got Micah Kaiser in the 5th round. They had, Corey Littleton was a UDFA. So that's pretty much what they've done. I mean, if you think about it, if you look at the body of work, Christian Roseboom, a UDFA, Traven Traven Howard, excuse me, he's a 7th round pick, right? These are guys like that's what I mean is that a lot of these guys have been UDFAs or they've been drafted on day 2 or day 3. So I think that's something to keep an eye on with the Rams. Do they deviate away from what they normally do? To be honest with you, looking at the draft, I don't really have for the first time, this year because I've been all about drafting a receiver. I don't really have a preference right now. I think if you're the Rams sitting there at pick 26, you can't wait for anything because these guys can get plucked in front of you. I would trade down personally. Even if it's trading down to 32nd, staying in the first round, keeping that 5th-year option, I would trade down. But I'd also argue this. Is the 5th-year option overrated? Think about this. Like, really think about this. The way these young players are starting to absolutely just dominate. You have Jared Verses of the world, the Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson immediately showed up, Jamar Chase. The list goes on. Jaden Daniels. The way these guys are starting to dominate, that 5th-year option doesn't really mean anything because now we're starting to see more mobility than ever. We're starting to see guys that are fearless and are not afraid to ask for a trade before their contract expires. A.J. Brown, for example, asking out of Tennessee, going over to Philly during his rookie deal. So the question is, do you have to stay in that first round for the 5th-year option? I'd say at this point, your best case scenario here is that you want that 5th-year option to be utilized because it means that the player's good enough. But more importantly, you want to have to pay them an extension because that means they're good enough for an extension. But here's the problem now. There are guys that won't play without an extension. Like Garrett Wilson. I don't know if he's going to play this year without an extension. He might hold out. Who knows? As soon as these guys become eligible for an extension, that's why the 5th-year option isn't as cracked up as it used to be. Because now you're starting to see more mobility and you're starting to see more ballsiness in these young players. They want to get paid earlier. And they threaten to be, they either threaten to be held out or, they threaten, being traded. And I bring this up because there are people that would say, well, keep in mind, if the Rams trade out of the first round, well, they're not going to get that 5th-year option. I don't know if the 5th-year option is even going to come into play if you're a player that's good enough. Like, do you really think Jared Verse is ever going to see the 5th-year option? I don't. They'll probably sign him by year 4. They'll probably have an extension done by year 4. He's going to be a long-term player. You don't let a guy like that go. So I don't really think the 5th-year option means anything there. Now, he was the 19th pick, so who cares? It's not like it's a big deal. But when you're talking about the 26th pick, and you're talking about, oh, well, I need the 5th-year option, so I don't want to, drop out of it or whatever. Well, think about this, right? That's what I would say. So, yeah. You said the audio sounds weird? I don't know why. That's better. No idea why that was the case. But anyway, yeah, it acts up on this for whatever reason. Okay, so I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say though, is that like the 5th-year option I used to be a big fan of. Like, look, remember when Lamar Jackson, he went 32nd overall. The Ravens didn't have the 32nd overall pick. They traded up to get the 32nd overall pick. Why'd they trade up to get 32nd, not 33rd? Because they wanted Lamar Jackson on that 5th-year option. That's why. So, I would just say when you look at just everything going on with this team right now, I understand they need a linebacker. I wouldn't be like, yeah, you can't drop out of the first round because you have to take a linebacker at 26. I don't think that's a smart play. If there's a linebacker that is the best player available at 26, then you have a discussion. Then you have a decision to make. But if he's not good enough to be drafted in the first round, I'm not just drafting him in the first round because he's a linebacker and I have a need. Those are the teams that don't do well in this league. Because guess what? When you least expect it, you could have a need. Think about it. Anybody can go down with injury. Anybody could complain about their usage. Anybody could hold out and request a trade. You don't know how things are going to go down. You don't. Do you think the Bengals knew that Trey Hendrickson was going to request a trade back-to-back years? You don't know. So that's the thing, is that just drafting for need and not actually the best player available and getting talent and the best talent on your roster, is that really conducive to winning football? I would probably say no. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on the draft. My guess is that they're probably going to grab a linebacker in the third round. I think they're going to trade down because they don't have a second round pick. So I think they're going to trade down, recoup probably another third, get it, trade out of the first, get a second. Then, maybe they draft the best player available there. I could see them drafting a receiver because, again, while it's not a need right now, like, this is still one, it's going to be a really good player. So you don't have to worry. Like, if anybody goes down with injury, God forbid, he's a really good player being drafted in the second round. But also think about the fact that Adams is a 2-year deal with pretty much 1 year and 1 year opt in or opt out, whatever. And then Atwell is a 1-year deal. So that's the thing. You also, when you're drafting, you're not just drafting for 2025, you're drafting for the future as well. Like, I firmly believe that they are going to draft a safety because they got Cameron Curl and Quentin Lake that are going to be testing the market next year, unless they're both extended or one is extended and one isn't. Both are free agents next year. So I do expect them to add at least one safety. Does that mean they have to draft one in the first round? No. But if they want to add another safety, Quentin Lake was a 6th round safety. McCullough, right? Jalen McCullough. We're talking about a guy that wasn't drafted. Cam Kinchins, 3rd round. Cam Curl, shocking free agency pickup. I did not think he'd be available. I didn't think the Rams would be able to get him. I thought he was way out of their price range. But that's the thing. They still, despite the fact they found multiple ways to find safeties, they could grab a safety in the first round. They could get Starks in the first round and have us all just absolutely in shock. Because grabbing the best player available is always the right approach. It is. Especially when you have a great organization like the Rams, you have a great development team like their coaching staff, that is the approach that you should take. Like, drafting the best player available, that's the way to go. That's all I can really say, right? So, kind of wrapping this thing up here, the Rams, in case you guys didn't see this, the Rams did lose Christian Roseboom and Jake Hummel, in addition to, of course, Bobby Brown and Michael Hoyt. And, wow, his name is totally escaping me, the tight end that they lost. But anyway, they lost their linebackers is the point. And losing the linebackers, now they're going to have to figure some things out. They don't have a lot of pieces there. It's Omar Speights, who they love. It's, Tony Fields II, who I think has some potential. But I also think they have other guys that have potential at other positions that they really haven't gotten an opportunity, like a guy like Tanner Engel, who just kind of sits there on the practice squad. So that's a thing. But yeah, absolutely. You look at a guy like Tony Fields II, I think he's got some talent. I think he's got some athleticism. I want to see him get an opportunity. I still think, regardless if I like Tony Fields or not, they still need to add a linebacker. We're going to see if they do. So anyway, that's going to do it for me, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in. Um, we're going to be doing this, of course, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you guys didn't know that, you can set your alarms or set your calendars 9 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday on Bleacher Report. We do a live stream on the Rams. So appreciate you guys, and you guys take care. Later, folks.